Yeah, it's really nice to be here. It's fantastic to be here. I'm in love with Johannesburg. The people here are so friendly, and I was talking to Africa earlier behind stage, and I think it's definitely one of the happiest places I've been in the world. Everybody seems like they're in a great mood, and it's been fantastic for me. And my father is here as well, so you know. Yeah, big thank you to the Discovery Vitality Summit for having me here. I know I'm a controversial figure, and they really put their neck out on the line for having me here today. So really, I'm here to talk to you today to talk to you about my story, which is a story that I'm not that proud about, but I'm proud I'm finally talking about it and being honest about it. It's a story about how a dream of mine related to compete at the highest level of sport, and eventually I learned that to be cycling. How my dream to eventually to ride in the Tour de France all of a sudden led me to compromise, all the values that I had grown up with. It's a story that led to, basically consequences that went way over the top and beyond a point that I ever imagined I'd go. And it's a story that ultimately that has, there's some sort of, happy ending about finally telling the truth and finally being set free. So yeah, what did it feel like to take that testosterone pill? To be honest, not a whole lot different. The next race I did do, I felt, I think, a little bit better than I expected. The legs had, my legs that were destroyed a couple days earlier had recovered a little bit better. And yeah, it was encouraging, I guess. And that, unfortunately from the little red testosterone pill, it led to the next step, which was Pedro coming into my room at another race. I think it was up to probably about a month or so later. It was about just after we found out about the team made the wild card selection for the Tour de France. He came into my room and pulled out a vial. This time it wasn't a pill, but it was a vial in an insulin syringe, and he told me it was EPO. So yeah, that led to EPO use, and it started the first year in 1997. I probably got 4 or 5 injections throughout the year. The next year was a few more, and I'll fast forward a little bit to 1999, 1998, which was, for those of you following cycling, they'll probably remember the Festina affair. Festina affair happened during the 1998 Tour de France. We were about a week into the tour, and one of the staff workers for this French team with this title sponsor, Festina, was caught with basically a station wagon full of performance-enhancing drugs. So one day I was riding next to guys like Richard Virenque, a Frenchman. The next day I look on television and the guy's handcuffed in prison. And that was very eye-opening. I know the team that I was on, the U.S. Postal team, the stuff, the loot that they had that was illegal at the time, they flushed it down the toilet, and we rode the rest of that tour on bread and water, I guess. And I'll fast forward to the '99 tour. So basically, after the Festina affair, you would think, any normal human being would probably not take any risk, especially going into France with EPO. But we had a big goal in the U.S. Postal team, and that was to win the Tour de France with a guy named Lance Armstrong. So that between the director, Johan Bernal, Lance Armstrong, and a few others, they devised a plan to have this guy on a motorcycle basically stay close enough throughout the whole Tour de France, close enough to where our hotels were, to basically deliver EPO at key times. He had a secret cell phone and a secret code name. We called him Moto Man since he was on a motorcycle. And he was, by the way, he was Lance Armstrong's gardener. who liked to ride motorcycles. So that was our sort of 1999 plan, and obviously, if you look back, we had a successful tour, and against all odds sort of thing, and we won. At the time, I mean, I should have probably taken a few steps back and looked at the big picture and headed back to Boston before I did something like that. I was risking a lot, but I didn't. It was an exciting time for me. I'd never thought I'd be in a position like that to be helping Lance Armstrong, who was more or less a hero of mine, before I came into the sport. And there we were trying to win the tour and eventually winning the tour. But there was a problem all of a sudden in the year 2000. There was rumblings about a new test. Up till the year 2000, there was no EPO test, which I probably should have mentioned before. No EPO test. So basically, it was kind of the Wild West days. But with rumblings of the EPO test, and not knowing exactly when the test was going to come out, it eventually came out in the Olympic Games in I think October of 2000. But we weren't quite sure if the test was going to be used in the tour in the year 2000. So they came up with another plan, the team doctors and Johan Bruyneel and others, and that was to do something called blood doping. So there I am about a day after the race finishes, or 2 days after the race finishes. There I'm flying in Lance's private jet over the Côte d'Azur, looking down at mansions and, just kind of wide-eyed, like, what the heck are we doing? And arrive in Valencia, Spain. Team doctors pick us up and team staff pick us up with a teammate, Kevin Livingston, as well. We get shuttled to just kind of a quiet hotel on the beach, and before I know it, I'm lying on the bed, and this huge needle goes into my left arm. Really big and really thick. Who's donated blood before? Yeah, so you know what it's like. It's pretty massive, and it leaves a pretty good scar. And before I, laying on the bed and basically having this clear plastic bag is laying there on the floor, and it's just filling up with my own blood. I just won the biggest race of my career, the Dauphiné, just a few days before, and I was basically at the peak of my career. And then all of a sudden, I give this bag of blood, and we go out for a training ride right after, and I remember riding up a small little hill and it feeling like Alpe d'Huez. It was eye-opening, and it was like, for me, it felt like if I always knew we were cheating, doing the testosterone, the EPO, even the cortisone, what have you, but this felt, this was a step above and beyond. It was pretty disgusting. But all of a sudden, after the 2001 tour, we'd won again, and I felt like I could, at that point, look back 3 years and ahead 3 years and see myself in the same position, and I was helping Lance Armstrong win the tour. And to be honest, it was starting to get old, and I was starting to get a little bit, I think, tired of being treated maybe not so well. So I went off to a new team. That was the team called CSC, an American sponsor, but run by a Danish organization and run by the 1996 Tour de France winner, Bjarne Riis. And I was kind of hoping things would be a little bit different. I did know more or less the whole sport, the culture of cycling at that point at the top level was, it was dirty, but I was hoping it would be less maybe focus on the doping. But I quickly learned, that was not the case. One of the first questions Bjarne Riis asked me when we had a free second was, had I ever blood doped before? So, I quickly saw the writing on the wall, but I didn't head back to Boston. I kept going, and after we had the doping discussion, after Bjarne Riis and I had the doping discussion, he quickly handed me a phone number. Of this Spanish doctor. Basically, I called him the doping doctor. His name was Eufemiano Fuentes. So Eufemiano was who ended up calling him Ufe over. I ended up working with Ufe for about 3 years, and Yeah, Ufi was definitely a crazy cat. That's for sure. He, yeah, Bjorn told me to call him. I called him soon there in the 2002 season, and yeah, basically Ufemiano would be my sort of, yeah, drug doctor. He would do the blood transfusions for me. He'd provide me with EPO or testosterone or whatever I needed. But yeah, there was some, I'm kind of telling you about all the ugly stuff, and there was plenty of that, that's for sure. But there were some highlights. Obviously the times with Lance were, and the U.S. Postal Team were, there was a lot, we achieved a lot. There was a lot of success. The sponsor money kept getting better and better, and more everybody was happy basically. The U.S. Postal Service was happy. All our, the bike companies were happy. Management was happy. Everybody was happy. As long as you were winning, everybody was happy. You definitely felt that pressure. Fast forward to 2002, I had some fantastic. From the outside, it looked like everything was great. It was, it had a second place in the Giro d'Italia in 2002. I won a stage. Moving forward to 2003, had a great Tour de France, won a stage, got fourth overall. Won a World Cup that year, won the one-day World Cup Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which was probably, I think, the hardest one-day race in the world. At one point that year, I was the #1 ranked rider in the world, which, for me was, out of control, way beyond anything I ever imagined. Back in 1997, I was so psyched just to have a number being on the start line in the Tour de France, and I thought that was going to be as good as it got. So all of a sudden, as the doping started in 1997, and it was a slow progression of the doping. Basically, it was like in 1997, it was like I got a little bit of mud on my shoes. So yeah, after the 97 season, I would say my shoes were a little bit muddy. And by, the 2003, 2004, I was up to my neck in mud. And, but also the times were good. I was getting great results, and from the outside, things look great. I will share this with you, and it's not about sport, but it is about health. I just finished a fantastic tour in 2003. Where I said I won a stage, was fourth overall, and I also had a broken collar. I broke my collarbone on the first stage, unfortunately. And so I had those achievements with this broken collarbone, and I got a lot of press back in the States, and I was welcomed back to like a hero's welcome. It was, out of control, and to be honest, way over my comfort level. I was